You probably think you've got women figured out when it comes to sex. Maybe you've read articles, maybe you've had girlfriends who told you they loved what you did in bed. Maybe you even picked up a few things from porn or friends. But here's the raw truth. Women almost never tell men exactly what's on their minds when it comes to sex. Not because they're trying to lie, not because they're cold or manipulative, but because honesty in the bedroom is often explosive. If a woman told you everything, her turn-ons, her fantasies, her disappointments, her boredom, you probably wouldn't take it well. Most men wouldn't. Egos get bruised, feelings get hurt, and relationships get messy. So instead of telling the full truth, most women play along. They laugh at your dirty joke. They moan when you expect them to. They act like what you're doing is enough. Meanwhile, deep down, there's a whole world of hidden thoughts and feelings they'll never confess. Today, I'm going to uncover some of those secrets, not from textbooks, not from fairy tales, but from the real patterns, conversations, and unspoken truths women carry but rarely admit. These are 7 sex secrets women keep from men. Once you hear them, you won't be able to look at intimacy the same way again. Secret 1. Women want more variety than they admit. Here's something most men never fully grasp. Women crave variety. Not just in positions or lingerie, but in experiences, in energy, in the feeling of sex. They might love you, they might be loyal, but that doesn't stop their biology or their imagination from getting restless. Think about it. Men are always painted as the ones who want new partners, new thrills, new flavors. But for every man having an affair, there's a woman right there with him. Variety doesn't just belong to the men. Women want it too. Here's the kicker. They'll almost never admit it. Why? Because society punishes women for saying out loud what men are praised for. A man who jokes about wanting a threesome is normal. A woman who jokes about it is wild, unfaithful, or too much. So women bury that part of themselves. They stay quiet, they fantasize in private, or they find little loopholes like celebrity crushes, fictional characters, or harmless flirting with a co-worker. And here's the twist most men don't know. Women get bored with the same sexual routine faster than men do. That Saturday night quickie in the same bed, the same order, the same finish. It feels predictable to her, long before you even realize it. This doesn't mean she doesn't love you. It doesn't mean she wants to cheat. It means her brain and body are wired to crave newness, just like yours are. Sometimes this variety shows up in subtle ways. She starts dressing up more when she goes out with friends. She suddenly gets into a new style of lingerie you never saw before. She wants to role play, but frames it as just for fun. What she's really doing is injecting freshness into the relationship without rocking the boat. And here's the brutal truth. Many women secretly fantasize about other men while staying loyal in real life. It could be the bartender who smiled at her, the trainer at the gym, or even just a scene from a movie. That fantasy becomes fuel. It's safe, it's hidden, but it scratches the itch for variety. Will she ever tell you that? Of course not, because most men can't handle it. Most men want to believe they are enough to satisfy her completely forever, but that's not how human desire works. The reality is, variety is part of female sexuality. She might never say it out loud, but it's there, pulsing under the surface. Secret 2. Orgasms are more complicated than men realize. Here's a hard pill to swallow. Most men think they're giving women orgasms way more often than they actually are. Ask a group of guys, and almost all of them will say, "Yeah, I make her come most of the time." Ask a group of women, and the truth is very different. The reality, many women don't climax with their partner. Not because they don't like sex, not because they're broken, but because the female orgasm is more layered, more delicate, and more misunderstood than men want to admit. Here's the thing. Penetration alone is not enough for most women. Movies and porn made men believe that a few minutes of thrusting is all it takes. But biologically, it doesn't work that way. The clitoris, not the vagina, is the star of the show. And unless she's getting the right kind of stimulation, chances are she's not crossing the finish line. So why don't women just say this? Because telling a man your moves don't work is like telling him he failed a test he thought he aced. Egos are fragile. Instead of risking that awkward, heavy conversation, many women just fake it, and faking becomes second nature. The moans, the heavy breathing, the arching back, it's all theatre sometimes. Not because she doesn't care, but because it feels safer to protect your confidence than to break it. Here's another twist. Women have different types of orgasms. Some are quick and sharp, some are deep and full-bodied, some feel almost emotional. But most men don't even realize these differences exist. They just assume an orgasm is an orgasm. Meanwhile, a lot of women finish the night without really getting there, then quietly make up for it later with a vibrator, with their shower head, or with their imagination. Does that mean you can't satisfy her? Not at all, but it does mean that understanding her orgasm requires more patience, more communication, and way less assumption. And no, she's not going to hand you a step-by-step manual. You have to ask, listen, and pay attention. Because here's the brutal truth. If you don't figure it out, she'll keep smiling at you while secretly taking care of herself later. Secret 3. Women care more about the build-up than the act. Here's something men constantly overlook. For most women, sex doesn't start in the bedroom. By the time you're pulling her close, her mind has already decided whether she's turned on or just going through the motions. What gets her there? The build-up, the emotional context, the way you made her feel hours or even days before. This is why foreplay matters so much. Not just touching, kissing, or dirty talk, but the little things that create anticipation. A text in the middle of the day, the way you touched her back at dinner, the look you gave her across the room. That mental runway is what makes the actual sex powerful. Without it, the act can feel mechanical, routine, even disappointing. For men, desire can be instant. You see something, you're ready. For women, desire often builds like a slow burn. That burn can turn into a wildfire if handled right, or fizzle out if ignored. Here's the part men miss. Women will rarely say, "I need more from you before sex." Why? Because it feels needy. Because it feels like asking for romance when you just want sex might kill the mood. So instead they adapt. They give you what you want, even if they're not fully there, and you leave thinking everything's fine. Meanwhile, she's quietly longing for more connection, more attention, more teasing before the clothes even come off. This doesn't mean women don't enjoy the act itself, but without the right build-up, the act alone doesn't hit as deep. Sex becomes something she does, not something she feels consumed by. Want to know why she sometimes seems into it, and other times seems distant? 9 times out of 10, it's not about the sex, it's about the context you created before it. Here's the brutal truth. A woman's body follows her mind. If you don't reach her mentally, you'll never reach her fully physically. Secret 4. Women judge your confidence more than your body. Here's a reality check. Women are not sitting around with a checklist of your abs, your height, or the exact size of what's in your pants. Sure, physical attraction matters, but it's not the main event. What women really notice, what actually makes or breaks desire, is your confidence. Confidence doesn't mean arrogance. It doesn't mean bragging, flexing, or pretending you're something you're not. It's the quiet way you carry yourself, the way you touch her without hesitation, the way you look at her like you know she wants you. That energy is magnetic. It's the thing that makes an average guy irresistible and a perfect-looking guy forgettable. But here's the kicker. Women will almost never tell you this directly. Why? Because admitting they're turned off by your insecurity feels cruel. Instead, they play along. They fake enjoyment. They reassure you when you ask, "Was that good?" They smile and nod even when they're quietly wishing you'd just take charge instead of second-guessing yourself. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Nothing kills attraction faster than hesitation. When a man asks too many times, "Do you like this? Is this okay?" it puts the woman in the driver's seat, and most women don't actually want to be there. They want to feel swept up, wanted, chosen. Of course, consent matters. Respect matters. But there's a huge difference between checking in and acting like you're waiting for permission to exist. This is why women rave about men who act with quiet certainty. Not because they're perfect lovers, but because they radiate belief in themselves. That confidence tells her she can relax, that she doesn't have to guide every move. And here's the secret she'll never say out loud. She's protecting your ego when she pretends your nervousness is cute. Inside, she's craving confidence. Secret 5. Fantasies are wilder than they'll confess. Here's something most men underestimate. Women's sexual fantasies are not soft, sweet, or polite. They are often bold, raw, and way more adventurous than you'd guess. But here's the twist. You'll almost never hear them. Why? Because women are judged more harshly for what they want. A guy can joke about a threesome, and people laugh. A woman hints at the same thing, and suddenly she's labeled dirty or unfaithful. So instead of confessing, women keep their fantasies locked away. They might read about them in romance novels, whisper about them to close friends, or explore them privately, but they rarely hand them over to their partner. Some women fantasize about being pursued aggressively. Some imagine being with multiple partners. Some picture scenarios that have nothing to do with love at all. Others want role play that flips their everyday reality upside down. Being in charge, being dominated, being taken somewhere unexpected. Do they tell you this? Usually not, because most men can't handle it. If she admitted she sometimes fantasizes about the guy at the coffee shop or about being with two men at once, what would happen? Jealousy, arguments, insecurity. The whole relationship could get shaken, so she stays quiet. Here's the kicker. She can love you deeply and still crave things she'll never say out loud. Those fantasies don't mean she's unfaithful. They mean she's human. Desire doesn't shrink to fit inside the neat little box of a relationship. And here's the brutal truth. While you're watching porn to scratch your itch for novelty, she's got her own hidden movie reel in her head. She just won't press play in front of you, because if she did, you might look at her differently. And that's the last thing she wants. Secret 6. Long-term relationships quietly kill desire. This one stings, but it's real. Over time, even in the happiest relationships, sexual desire almost always fades. In the beginning, everything feels electric. You can't keep your hands off each other. Every touch feels urgent. But fast forward a few years, and the fire turns into warm embers, comfort replaces passion, and sex becomes routine. Most men blame stress, age, or busy schedules, but underneath, the real reason is biology. Humans aren't naturally wired for endless monogamy. Men crave novelty. Women do too, but women are expected to hide it better. Here's the part men rarely see. Women often feel this drop in desire sooner. She may still love you. She may want to keep the relationship alive, but her body isn't responding the way it used to. That doesn't mean she's broken. It doesn't mean she doesn't care. It means her brain is craving something new. New energy, new attention, new excitement. This is where things like work husbands come in. Maybe she flirts with a coworker, or enjoys the attention of a bartender, or lingers on a text exchange with an old friend. She's not necessarily cheating. She's chasing novelty in safe, subtle ways. Why doesn't she just tell you she feels bored? Because it would sound like rejection. Because it would hurt you. Because women know men often can't separate "I need variety" from "I don't love you." So she keeps quiet, keeps the peace, and finds her own secret outlets. Sometimes it's romance novels, sometimes it's fantasies, sometimes it's silent crushes that never leave her mind. Here's the brutal truth. When you notice the bedroom getting colder, chances are she noticed it long before you did. She just didn't say anything. Secret 7. Women protect men from the full truth. At the core of all of this is one simple reality. Women protect men's feelings more than men realize. Why does she fake an orgasm? To protect your confidence. Why doesn't she tell you her fantasies? To protect your ego. Why won't she admit she's bored? To protect the relationship. It's not that women are dishonest. It's that honesty in sex often blows things up instead of fixing them. Imagine if she said, "I didn't finish last night. Sometimes I fantasize about other people. Our sex feels boring now." Would you really take it calmly? Most men wouldn't. They'd feel rejected, angry, or insecure. And from her perspective, it's easier to stay silent than to risk the fallout. So women become experts at smoothing over men's egos. They play along, they reassure, they hide their deeper truths. Not because they don't care, but because they know too much honesty could break the bond. Here's the kicker. This silence isn't free. It comes at a cost. Women end up carrying secret frustrations, private longings, and quiet disappointments. And men walk around believing everything is fine. The gap between what's said and what's felt grows wider over time. That's why so many couples wake up one day wondering why the passion is gone. Here's the brutal truth. Your partner probably knows more about her desires than she lets on, and she's already decided which truths you can handle and which you can't. The closing, the truth she'll never say out loud. So now you know. Women aren't the innocent, endlessly satisfied partners most men imagine. They've got secrets, desires, frustrations, fantasies, and most of the time they'll never tell you. Not because they don't care, not because they're playing games, but because the truth is messy. It bruises egos, it starts fights, it risks breaking what you've built together. Think about the secrets we've just uncovered. Women want more variety than they admit. Orgasms are more complicated than you think. Emotional build-up matters more than the act. Confidence is sexier than abs. Fantasies are wilder than they'll confess. Long-term relationships quietly kill desire. And through it all, women protect men from the raw truth. Now here's the big question. What do you do with this knowledge? You could ignore it. You could go back to pretending you've got it all figured out, convincing yourself that if she moans, it means she's satisfied. If she kisses you back, it means everything is perfect. Or you could accept that female sexuality is more complex than most men give it credit for. You could admit that maybe, just maybe, you don't know everything, that she has a whole inner world you've barely touched, that if you want to keep the spark alive, you need to do more than repeat the same routine until the end of time. Here's the brutal truth. Long-lasting desire isn't about tricks, positions, or porn-inspired moves. It's about curiosity. It's about staying awake in your relationship. It's about not assuming she's fine just because she's quiet. The couples who make it, the ones who still have passion years later, aren't the ones who pretend everything is perfect. They're the ones who ask, who listen, who take risks, who can handle the truth without crumbling. And that's rare, because most men don't really want the truth. They want the fantasy. They want to believe they're enough, that their partner is satisfied, that passion can last forever without effort. But women, they already know better. They've been carrying these secrets for years. They've been adapting, adjusting, and hiding to keep the peace. So the question isn't whether women have secrets. The question is, can you handle hearing them? Because if you can, everything changes. You stop taking her silence as proof of satisfaction. You stop mistaking her performance for reality. And you start seeing her, really seeing her, for the complex, layered, sexual human being she actually is. That's when the real intimacy begins. Not in the moans, not in the positions, not even in the orgasms, but in the honesty. The messy, raw honesty that most couples never reach. Will it be uncomfortable? Absolutely. Will it be worth it? More than anything. Because once you stop pretending, you stop losing. You stop living in a play, and you start building something real. So here's the final secret. She already knows all of this. She's just waiting to see if you're strong enough to hear it.